I'm a musician here in Nashville, Tennessee. And every week I like to come on here and really talk about music, talk about what's on my mind, talk about what my experiences are. I'm a musician developing my career here in Nashville. I've been here for about 2 years and really decided to make the jump into full-time music in 2023. And I like to document a lot of my lessons along the way and a lot of the, I guess, victories and losses I accumulate. And this week, I really want to talk about money. And a lot of us it's almost like a dirty word in the music industry. Because if you want money for playing, it's almost like it's tainting your art. And people don't think you are quite as valid. Or they might think of you as maybe unscrupulous if you're asking money for your pay. Asking money for your skills. And a lot of musicians don't really feel comfortable asking for money, don't feel comfortable talking about money. A lot of us feel for lack of better terms, a certain sense of shame because we're not good with money. We were never taught how to really manage our money. And you know what? I'm in that camp. I never learned financial literacy growing up. I never learned financial literacy as an adult. And right now I'm kind of in this whole wild new phase where I'm having to figure out a lot of things at once. And the thing about being a musician, most of us, we have to be an entrepreneur because our skills, our musical abilities, that's the product we are selling. We are literally business. We're running a business. And if you've gone to music school, there might be some music business classes, but there aren't a lot of classes on being an entrepreneur. There's not a lot of classes on budgeting, on taxes, on forecasting your money, on ways to leverage opportunities to make money. And I was really short-sighted when I was younger, thinking about money. I was always thinking about what's my today money? What's my today take-home pay? And if it wasn't in line with what I wanted or needed, I would say, no, you're insulting me. I'm not going to do this gig for $50. And were my skills worth more than that? Absolutely. And was saying no to a gig going to do anything for my career? Absolutely not. Not at that point. And one thing I noticed, especially with musicians, we're operating under this scarcity mindset where we are always afraid we are going to lose something. We're going to lose a gig. We're going to lose an opportunity. We are going to lose money. And so because all that stuff seems like it's so scarce, it kind of affects our behavior with it. And sometimes it makes us a little bit irrational. Sometimes it affects our impact, or it affects our vision for the future, right? Like, what if you could do a gig for no money for a year and then all of a sudden be making $1 million a year? Could you handle that 1 year without making money? And again, that's an extreme example and that's never going to happen. But when I was younger, I was thinking, oh, you want me to do a free rehearsal? Absolutely freaking not. That's an insult to my craft. And did I have a point? Maybe. But did that do me any favors? Absolutely not. So today I really want to talk about money and how we view money and kind of my struggles and what I've learned with money so far. And I want to set a disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor. I would never suggest take my advice. So what I do on my channel, I never really try to give advice directly. I never say, you should do this. I say, everything is relative, and I can share my experience with you as a musician, as your peer, and maybe you can compare that to yours. Maybe you have something valuable to offer me, some information. Maybe I have some valuable insight to offer you. So this is really a discussion instead of a lecture. So if you have questions, if you have thoughts, feedback, put it in the comments. But in terms of money, I've noticed something specific to Nashville in the music industry. I've noticed something gradually shifting in the 2 years I've been here. Yes, even in the 2 years, I've seen the money wildly change. And I like to use Broadway because Broadway is that strip downtown where there's music pretty much going all day long on about, I would say almost 100 stages now are going at all times during the day. And a lot of us make our money down there. And I've noticed that the money on Broadway, as Nashville is really expanding, Nashville is booming. The tourism industry here is just skyrocketing. There's more people coming in, more tourists. There's more venues opening up, more restaurants opening up, more hotels. It's really growing quickly. And you would think that all that growth is leading to a financial boon for musicians. And what I found is the exact opposite. And here's what I mean is that we're having more stages open up. Because there's more stages opening up, there's less money per musician on each of those stages because we have so many more stages and we have more people, but there are more, it's not in line with the amount of people. So we aren't getting tipped quite as much because there are more stages, but also because people have less expendable income coming in. In 2020, 2021, people may have had a little bit more money, more stimulus money. They had a different attitude about money. And the economy has really changed. So people have really, they're not tipping quite as much with their money. But also prices of drinks, prices of food, prices of parking, prices of Ubers, taxis, hotels, everything has gone up in Nashville. But the base pay of most of these honky-tonks has stayed the same or even gone down. And all of us, pretty much every musician I ask, they say, I'm probably making about 20 to 25% less this year than I was in the previous year. And with everything just going, everything growing and getting bigger, I was like, well, musicians run this city. We should kind of have a cut of that, right? And here's what this is purely anecdotal, but from my observation, a lot of musicians are doing what has worked yesterday and expecting it to work today and tomorrow. And what worked yesterday is not going to work today. And so regardless if you're playing a gig downtown, you're playing a gig on the road, you're creating content, you're selling things online, I like to think about like the music business is always evolving. There is always money to be had in the music business, but it's always going to different places and it's never in one place for one set amount of time. So I notice a lot of people, like specifically on Broadway, they continue doing what they've done in the past, what has worked for them in the past, and they are expecting the same results, but they're getting less and less money. Now, it's not making them, they're not going flat broke, but they are not really thriving. They are just, a lot of people who are kind of making a living, doing okay, are kind of just surviving now. And they're just doing the same things. And really, a lot of what people do in Nashville, especially on Broadway, is play for tips. Now, there are other opportunities as well. I'm saying there is a high percentage of musicians down here who are playing in these honky-tonks for little or no pay. So yeah, when you're seeing these musicians play downtown, it is basically like the pay that the honky-tonks are giving them is not enough to cover parking and gas and maintenance on your car and your instrument. Seriously. You think that we're making tons and tons of dollars, but it's really everyone in Nashville really depends on tips. They depend on patrons to cover the costs, to subsidize the costs of these major businesses like these honky-tonks. Again, I don't comment on that. I'm just saying that is the reality of it. I've also noticed that touring gigs, like going on the road, they are paying a lot less. And in fact, when I go on the road, I make a lot less than I do when I'm in town. So all this to say is that from playing alone right now, I'm barely making a living. I'm struggling a little bit, and it has affected my mental health. It has affected my career. And this isn't me complaining. This is just me being real. And I think it's important to acknowledge these things because when these things happen, when your bottom line starts getting impacted, you need to act. You can't continue to do the same thing that you've done in the past, hoping things will turn around. So case in point, this week, so I play a regular Friday gig with Aaron Nichols, and Aaron is supremely talented. I believe in him. We have a good group of people. We are tight, musically and personally. We put on a good show. And we were shifted to another time slot. We were shifted to the 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. time slot. And money comes and goes in different portions of the day. And I find that the earlier shifts make far less money. I also find that some of the venues are shifting away from doing country music or even doing live music and going for more of, I would say, quote unquote party vibe. Maybe they're going for DJs, maybe they're going for a different style of music. Again, that's beyond my control, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this week on our gig, we probably made, I would say, less than half of what we normally make. Now, the venue that we normally play at, like, they are offering us that regular, so we were playing there maybe once or twice a month. They're offering us that every week. But even if we did that every week, the amount of money we would make wouldn't be nearly as much as if we were playing the 2 to 6 slot, which we normally do. And we were all talking afterwards, and we're like, okay, you know, this was a trial run today. What do we do about this in the future? Should we stay on this? And a lot of people, so a lot of people would say, no, let's go to something else. And I'm not saying that's bad or good, but I was trying to make a point with all the people in the group that I'm like, okay, I know that the money wasn't quite as good today, and we might want to change strategies or see if we can get another time. However, I think these sorts of problems or these sorts of, I would say these kind of situations are going to follow us no matter where we go. Nashville, downtown, if we go out, we go on tour, we record, we go online. It's that everything is changing, and that I simply don't think it's enough just to show up and play anymore. You have to do other things, and you have to be creative with your thinking. And you also have to stop thinking about today money and maybe think about tomorrow money. And it's easier said than done. So again, another case in point. I started doing YouTube regularly about a year and a half ago where I finally committed myself full-time to music. And that first year of committing myself to full-time playing music, that first year of committing to doing YouTube regularly, did I make good money? Absolutely not. I lost out on so many musical opportunities. My previous job, I was making a lot more money. I really put myself behind the 8 ball. And my YouTube following it's gradually grown, but it wasn't until like the past couple months that things have started to take off a little bit more, and I'm slowly making some money from ad revenue. Does it cover the costs? Absolutely not. YouTube is still pretty much, I'm losing money on it. However, I'm starting to build that audience, and I'm starting to make money, and I'm also starting to get other opportunities from that. And again, I'm still sinking money into streaming costs. I'm still sinking money into gear. And it's also a lot of time and energy, but it's slowly been building my audience. And so last Friday, we had 10,000 people watching us from my live stream. And I was a little bit pressed for time. I couldn't set up multiple cameras, and I just set up my phone by the drum set. And from that, we had 10,000 people watching. Is that huge? No, but that's a lot more than 100 people in a honky tonk. And this is the point I was making to them. I'm like, well, listen, if they're going to give us this regular gig, we could really leverage this for an opportunity. And here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm thinking about hiring somebody, maybe paying them $200, an audio video person, to come and set up cameras for us and help manage the audio feeds, help manage the comments, and also take requests from people online. And will we lose money on that at first? Probably. We'll probably lose money for the first month or two. And I think we would all take that out of our take-home pay. We would just pay the audiovisual person. But I do think that there's enough people watching that it can start generating some eyes upon us. And then also, Aaron Nichols, the singer in the group, he has a really great mind, and he thinks about things differently than I do. He was like, well, if we have 10,000 people watching, I think we could maybe try and find a sponsor that I might say their name on the mic a couple times, And for them, that is worth $200, $250 that we could pay the video person. And so then our costs for video are covered. And also we are getting exposed to a wider audience. And from there, we could take more requests for songs. And that's how we make our money here. We make our money based off of tips, based off of playing song requests for people. And that's kind of like, okay, an immediate way we're going to be making money. But it's also, we are building an audience so that in the future, if we do other things, if we're going on the road, if we're getting to do more original music, we have that audience, we have that following, and we already have kind of like the infrastructure set up, and we know how to start broadcasting our shows live. Now, is this a lot of work? Yeah, I'm pretty overwhelmed and tired thinking about it. And I really enjoy trying to figure out these solutions, but it's also been an exhausting year for me because I can't just show up and rest on my laurels because I know that's not going to be enough to get things done. And I'm also willing to invest into things. Like, again, I've lost money on YouTube. Anytime somebody donates to the channel, I put that money back into streaming so I can cover those costs. I think I've taken a little bit of money out for cables, for memory cards, for storage, for, equipment. But really, I like to, and I know I could take any money donated to myself, but again, that is not that much money at all. And I would rather reinvest that into something that I'm slowly building. And when I was younger, I was just thinking about immediacy of money because I had no money and I needed to keep the lights on and I needed to keep myself fed. And I'm not quite there yet, but I'm always just an incident or two away and a medical emergency or two away from that happening. I still haven't bought a new car because I'm trying to buy one cash all up front. So I don't have to go through financing because I'm a musician and most people aren't that enthusiastic to give a loan to a musician who just went full time last year. Like financial realities are always hitting me. I spend money on, I talk about this frequently, about going to therapy, about my mental health. I struggled with, a lot of depression. I struggled with like addiction issues. I struggled with fractured sense of self, lack of self-confidence, and I still do. And I still invest into that. And my health insurance that I have to pay out of pocket for refuses to cover that. So, and I know I could just, maybe not spend that money and maybe spend it on a car instead, but I'm like, no, it's absolutely important to me. And so I'm running a business. There is no safety net for me. And I think that is really important when you are a musician making money in Nashville. You have to think about yourself not as just a freewheeling artist. You have to think about yourself as a business, as an entrepreneur. And that is the total opposite of being an artist, I know. And that's why sometimes you see a lot of people who may not be as talented artistically really making it because they figured out their lane they're going to be in and they are going to figure out how they are going to make money from that. And I'm still trying to figure out what lane I'm in, how I want to make money. But my whole theme is I am not thinking about money today. I'm in this for the long run. And I'm willing to suffer, sacrifice a little bit today, not for the sake of being a starving artist, but having a plan and really just having the mindset that whatever I get, whatever I do today, it's good, but I need to use that to leverage things in the future. Like when I went on tour for a few times last year, I started doing an online tour diary. Did that make me money? Did that create me any opportunities? No, not really. And I thought it was going to. And I tried that, and you know what? I found I was like, oh, maybe this doesn't work right now, but it helped me build an audience, and it helped me get my feet wet creating content. And learning how to do that it's a great skill, both for your enrichment, but also being marketable. So now when people hire me for gigs, they're like, oh, he does this YouTube channel. Maybe he can get me like a little bit more exposure that way. And does that make me money right away? No, but it's opening opportunities. And so you have to look at every opportunity, every obstacle as a way, how can I make this, how can I leverage this to benefit me? What can I do? What can I gain from this that will help me grow, um, both as a musician, but also grow my career? And the last point I want to make is that I made a video earlier this year about one of my many wild and wacky, unpredictable, stressful weekends on the road. It was a video where the Friday night before we were leaving, nobody had the vehicle. The artist was 8 hours away and we had to drive to meet them, and we needed to get a vehicle to carry all of our gear, and no one had arranged that. And so I did that, and I kind of took the reins for that weekend, and I did probably like the jobs of 2 or 3 people. And was I required to do that? Was that my responsibility? No. And a lot of people noted that in the comments. They're like, I wouldn't know. Like, I would have just said, no, why are you doing this? And they said, oh, the club you're playing, there's only a few hundred people. You couldn't have made that much money. And they're absolutely right. It was exhausting. I didn't make that much money. However, like, the video on YouTube got like 70,000 views, almost 70,000 views. And from ad revenue, the ad revenue I made from that, again, it's not massive, but it made up for the pay in the weekend, and it made that weekend worth my time and efforts. That doesn't happen right away. Like, you have to slowly, gradually build your audience. So if that weekend was worth my time and effort financially this year, imagine I do a weekend like that next year when I have even greater audience and I've honed my skills at this much better, at creating content, at communicating. And the way I've kind of just started exponentially growing here on YouTube, it just takes time. And I've taken on the attitude that playing is not enough, and that I have to think about not what's right or wrong, but what's going to serve me. So if someone's asking me to do way too much for a gig, I can say no, but is saying no going to do anything for my career? And sometimes that is. That's establishing boundaries. But sometimes if I'm like, you know what, I'm a professional, I'm going to do this right now, and I'm going to find a way to keep moving and keep this leveraging. Having that attitude has really helped me. And that attitude this time around, I think, is really important for me. And Nashville, the music industry, the American economy, it's always changing. And everyone's always thinking, well, I used to make money doing this, and this is, and I get that, but what used to be is not what's today. And if you can start thinking about that and never get comfortable and never rest on your laurels, and you don't have to be like some business tycoon, because clearly I am not. I'm still like, I actually hired a financial coach. I didn't hire one. I got in touch with the Grammy Foundation, Music Cares, and I said, listen, I'm struggling, can you guys help me out? And they set me up with a financial coach. And I'm going to, like, and this is me just fully admitting, like, oh, wow, whew, I don't know what I'm doing here. But also, instead of just like wringing my hands about it, burying my head in the sand like I did before, I got in touch with Music Cares, and they're helping me out. And is that going to fix my problems right away? No, but it's all kind of like a long burn here. So, if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer them right now. I want to get to Dan the drummer's question. He says, when moving to Nashville, what kind of jobs are available to make sure there's some kind of income coming in while someone is networking, getting their music career going? Well, again, Dan, that is all insanely, that is very dependent on the person, dependent on their wants and needs. Some people love working a day job, so then they could just focus on their arts and kind of silo those two. And they find that their arts and their musical career benefits. Me, I'm the opposite. I want to be all in on music, and that's not right or wrong. So I would, if you're coming to Nashville for music, start thinking, what's your plan? And what do you want to accomplish? And how do you want to accomplish that? And know that it's going to change. But if you're moving to Nashville, again, everyone has different plans. Everyone has different levels of comfort, what they're willing to do. But I would say plan on being here for 6 months before you even play a gig. Now, you'll probably have a gig before that, but think about those 6 months. Think about that as your job is to go out and network. Your job is to do your homework. Your job is to start building your network here and letting people know you exist, going out to jam sessions, figuring out the pulse, figuring out where you fit in. Now, what do you do during those 6 months? That's a great question in terms of money. I would suggest if you could move here with 6 months of income, like saved up, or 6 months to kind of give you some padding, that would be great. But you also have to have financial discipline to do that. And I'm not the best at financial discipline. And I'm just being honest, but everybody is going to be a little bit different. And everyone's circumstances and their needs are going to be different. But if you're coming to Nashville, it's just like any other city. But it's not going to be easy, regardless of how you slice it. It's going to test probably your financial means, your emotional needs, your musical skills. So I would say make sure that you are sound in terms of like you have some kind of savings. And also make sure that your head's in the right place. And that's tough to do. And I know some people are kind of adverse against that. But making sure that your head is in the right place can really pay some huge dividends when you're in a place like Nashville that can be a little bit intimidating and very competitive. So we have Brad asking where I'll be playing this week. So Brad, I'm pretty much playing every day this week. And I think I'm probably just going to focus on streaming on Friday. Friday, 10:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. That may change a little bit, but the thing is, my mental doing that like requires insane amounts of mental energy to get there early, set up, juggle everything while I'm running that. And Brad and Joel have been great at being moderators on my chat, so thank you so much, guys. That makes things a little bit easier. But yeah, I think for right now, I'm just going to stream on Fridays. And really what I'm trying to do is find a way that if I can maybe get a sponsor for every stream, if I can maybe find a way to get somebody to advertise, if I can find something, or maybe someone to endorse that, or a product I can endorse, so that I can pay somebody to run the stream, run the audio, give people a better look at what's going on, pay for all the data. If I can break even on that, I'm great, because I just want to show people what I do, and I want to give people a direct insight into what this world is like. So for the time being, Brad, I might throw up a few more streams, but I think I'm really going to try to stick to Friday, because I think that's when I can get the most people to watch. And that's where I have to think about where I'm spending my time, energy, and money. And plus, doing that gig at the Valentine, since I know it so well in and out, and I can get there, I know what specifically I need to do every minute while I'm setting up, since I only have 15 minutes to set things up. It makes it a little bit easier and less stressful for me. But eventually, I would really like to hire somebody. And again, my whole goal is off of YouTube. I'm not making money. Losing money on this, but I'm trying to help people, give people better insight into what's going on, while also helping my career, giving myself, people know who I am now, and knowing who I am authentically as a real person, as opposed to, being some fake version of myself, which I think a lot of people, myself included, have been on social media, because it's really tough to show up as your authentic self. But that's the great thing about YouTube. It's taught me a lot about that. So Joel's asking me, once I get to a local recurring gig, what are the ways that folks in Nashville increase real life attendees? And great question, Joel. And that really all depends on the gig you have. Where are you playing? Who are you playing for? When I'm playing on Broadway, I'm primarily playing for tourists, okay? They're not down there to see me specifically or the artist I'm playing with specifically. They're down there to hear music from Nashville. So the great thing about playing on Broadway is that there's always going to be some kind of built-in crowd because of tourists. And that changes dramatically as seasons change. So that's why winter is known as slow season, when there's not a lot of people down here, and it's not quite, But the summer months are a sprint if you're down here and you want to play as much as possible. So if you have a recurring gig, on Broadway, there's more of a built-in crowd, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to develop audiences. So I think a really great way to increase attendance is like simply just promote your stuff. Or not even promote it, just like say, oh, I'm doing this today. And I've thought about that with like doing Instagram and YouTube. Instead of thinking about I need to work a specific angle, I just think, okay, like I just need to like let people know I exist. And after doing that for so long and documenting what I'm doing, there's people that show up to my gigs. They might want to show up to talk to me. They might want to show up because they like the artists. But just letting people know you exist is a great way. And that seems so simple and easy, but really sometimes I'm reluctant to live stream. Sometimes I'm reluctant to post because I'm like, this is boring. I do this every day. It's so unremarkable to me. It's like somebody streaming their office job. But what I fail to realize is that a lot of people, it's very interesting to them. Like my skills seem very ordinary to me, but a lot of people think that, oh, they are extraordinary and I love watching you and the people you work with play. And just kind of turning off my own like self-analysis and being like, I'll let other people decide, here's me playing. But really just sharing yourself in a way that you're not, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but the way that you're sharing yourself and you're not trying to like intensely promote something, but just saying, I'm here. That's a great way. Just showing up as your authentic self. It doesn't happen right away though. And really like promoting, again, it is everybody's going to be different. And notice how this entire chat, we are talking about all these things that aren't music. And I've always been driven by my love of music, and I've always kind of shied away from the things that aren't music because I'm like, it's soiling my craft. But when I start doing things like making regular investments into my time, regular investments into my efforts, and not expecting like anything to come back right away, but just being really consistent with it, it slowly pays off. It's kind of like eating really healthy. You're not going to feel really good right away, 2 days later, 3 days, a week. But if you do it consistently for a year, one day you recognize like, oh, I'm in a totally different place. Even doing these live chats, they can like really grind and drain me because just talking to the air for like 45 minutes, it can be exhausting, and giving so much of myself can be exhausting. But I'm fulfilled by it because no one did this when I was coming up. And having somebody say this stuff would have been really helpful to me. But also, like as I progress, like it's helping more and more people. And that's really like, I don't want to do this for my ego. I want to do this, okay, I want to be who I am and be comfortable with that, which is you want to talk about something hard. Yeah, that is really hard. Like not trying to fake the funk, not trying to seem like you're more confident, you're better than you are, but just saying like, here I am, take me or leave me. Especially when like you can see like likes or lack thereof as you're posting. But again, like I've been doing this for live chats for about a year now, not even a year. And sometimes they're really great. Sometimes I have a lot of people watching, and then sometimes nobody shows up. But doing this consistently over time has really paid off. Martini, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we have time for about another question or two. If anybody has a question, it can be about money, it can be about Nashville, it can be about playing music, it can be about mental health. Again, I'm not an expert on any of these. I'm simply sharing a slice of my life. And I think sometimes hearing other people talk about life and about how bumpy the road can be makes your road seem a little bit more manageable. And it also kind of breaks down this whole concept of everybody is perfect out there online. Everyone's who is like, has a following, everything is easy for them and they're like rolling in the cash. Again, like I am not rolling in the cash. And also I'm incredibly grateful for people who have donated, like you know what, actually, that's another thing I wanted to talk about, and this is wildly honest. I've had people donate, and I am so appreciative, so appreciative of everybody who does that. Thank you so much. And honestly, I feel guilty about that sometimes because I feel like am I grifting people? I'm not doing anything. I'm being so ordinary. And, I've confided with this in a few friends, but they're like, well, a lot of your stuff is inspiring people. A lot of your stuff is giving people, it's answering some questions that there aren't answers for out there, but it's giving them some kind of comfort. And a lot of people just enjoy what you do, and it brings them joy. Like same with my cat. And this is why I think having self-confidence and working on your insecurity is really important. Because a lot of times I think, I don't deserve that. I'm nobody good. I'm nobody special. I don't deserve to have love and support from other people. And I feel guilty about that. I feel like I am taking and not giving. But someone says, well, what you do is you're giving. And if people choose to give back, like, you should be honored. And I am honored. So if you've donated $1, $1 million, if you've donated a like, if you've donated 5 minutes of your time, I'm honored and thank you so much. And that's why I take this so seriously. That's why I take playing so seriously. If someone is spending their free time, which is an incredibly finite resource, to come see me play, I want to honor that, and I want to do the best job I can. So, Haley Johnson says, what's your favorite kind of music to play, or what is the most requested? So, Haley, that's a pretty broad question. I get that quite a bit. And all the requests really depend on where you're at and depend on what the venue is and the artist you're playing with. My favorite kind of music, I don't have a specific genre, but here's what I can tell you. Like, my favorite kind of music replicates who I try to be, which is I am purely me. I am authentic. I am not, or that's what I'm striving to be. I'm not trying to be something that I am not. So if someone's playing country music and they're doing it in a way that they really feel it and they've really devoted themselves to that craft and that style, and yet they're doing it in their own unique, authentic way, yeah, cool, I dig it. Same with blues, jazz, funk. And if somebody is doing country and they're just trying to really imitate other people that they've saw and trying to create this persona that they're really not, that's not really interesting to me. I really find it interesting when somebody opens themselves up musically, artistically, and pours it out there and stops thinking, I'm doing this to get this. I'm trying to make a product and they're trying to make art. That makes sense. Dan says, where do I want my career in 5 years? Great question, Dan. I think that's something everybody should really think about. They should have like 1, 5, 10-year plans and like reverse engineer your career based on that. And having something that is like specific, measurable, and quantifiable instead of saying, I want to be a session player. Okay, well, what does that mean? Like, how are you going to get there? And for me, my main goal is I want to control my own destiny. I want to write the future that I want to have. So that's why I spend so much time on doing YouTube and building an audience and starting to do other things where I'm like, okay, I'm basically like trying to set myself up for the future where that if I release solo material, okay, I'll have a bigger audience. I'm also doing some songwriting right now, and that's going to be coming later in the year where I'm going to be talking about publishing, but doing things where, okay, if I have my own streams of income that I can control, that kind of protects me from, like, if I'm playing with an artist that they decide they don't want to play music anymore. They get arrested, they go to rehab, they fire me as a drummer. Something happens with everything shut down. So I really want to control my own destiny and have that come from multiple different passive and active income streams. And I want to do that in a way where I'm being an authentic version of myself and I'm happy and healthy and I'm playing and creating music. And I'm going to have to do that by playing a lot of drums because that's my best instrument. But I really enjoy writing. I really enjoy creating videos and like sharing slices of life, which I view as a type of writing. And I want to create art that is authentic to me. Uh, yeah. So do we have any other questions here? Because if not, I'm going to sign off here and get some work done for the week. But again, if you've watched, I sincerely enjoy having you watched. If you email, I try to get to emails. I try to get to messages. I can't always do that. And I also really I'm really trying to guard how much time I invest into everything. So like, say, all right, I'm shutting off my phone after 8 p.m. and I'm not turning it back on till 9 a.m. the next morning. Like creating boundaries like that. I felt guilty about that. But as things are growing, both in terms of like my exposure, both in terms of there's more money coming in, but there's a lot more money going out. But things are happening. So I will get to your emails. And if you've donated, thank you so much. I appreciate all donations. They go back into the channel and we're going to keep growing. So thank you so much. As I always say, be kind to one another, be kind to yourself. And that's a hard thing to do, but don't be afraid to try it. Everyone have a great week. Thanks for watching.